I long for revival in church, but I want to see it on the streets too. I want to see it everywhere, the whole world. And God is moving in the nations of the world right now. Oh, Alpha, I had this vision. Oh, remember when you were praying in the car and it was just filled with power and fire and your hand was on fire?
But
Yeah, you were on fire, girl. And it was just flowing and you were praying in power. And when you were praying, the Holy Spirit was giving me visions and I saw that huge quarter with George Washington on the front. And the Lord said, I've given you both sides of the coin. And then you were like, oh, it's 25 for
yeah,
25. And and then George Washington. And what's so cool is that I prayed about that, and the Lord told me that He had given me both sides of a coin. I told you that in the vision that He said that, but He said it's revival and reformation, both sides of the coin. And then He was talking to me about Trump being like parallel to George Washington. And even when Trump had the assassination attacks, I was alerted to that before it happened. I sat the girls down and I said, there's going to be assassination attack. We need to pray. And then it happened 2 days later. The Lord was alerting a lot of people, but the Lord showed me this vision of George Washington when he was riding his horse through and all these bullets were coming and the sovereign God didn't allow him to be hit. And the Lord was comparing that to God's favor on Trump, that his divine sovereign hand is protecting him for such a time as this in history. And so the other day, Sylvester Stallone, he introduced Trump and he said, he's like George Washington. He made that declaration.
that wow.
Sylvester Stallone. And so I was like, yes. And then he was like being in awe of Trump. Like Trump, I'm in awe that he could have pulled this off. And I was like, oh no, be in awe of Jesus because he's the one that did it. Um, but remember you were praying and I saw that. And then I saw that sea of the African people at night in an open crusade. And then the
Yeah,
torches were
yeah,
by
like,
each
yeah.
one, men, women, and children. And so, uh,
Flames.
what?
I think you saw flame.
Yeah, the flame. Thank you. It
Yeah,
to me it's like a torch because it was at night, but it was the flame. And as I'm
yeah.
saying it, I'm seeing it. It was all lit up with each person had been given that flaming fire of Holy Spirit. And so then the Lord, I told you, He was speaking to me about Africa and inheritances in Africa. Well,
Yeah.
um, as I was praying the other day, it was really interesting because uh, the Lord was telling me that He views Africa as I heard the words cradle of civilization. And then I saw Him like taking the people of Africa and the country of Africa in His arms and rocking her in His arms like a mother. And He just feels so tenderly toward Africa. And then I saw a vision of Trump being in an open air Jeep and he was standing up and he had like the flag of America painted on him. And he's like standing up and they're parading. The African people and leaders are like
Wow.
proud and happy and parading him through. And he's having great respect. America is having great respect. That's being restored, that connection between America and Africa. But Trump was so happy and the people were happy. It's like the joy had entered back into the land of Africa. And I saw this golden rain being released all over Africa, even in the villages and tribal people. And men, women, and children, that the corporate move of God was happening all over the continent of Africa. And then one thing that was so wild, I saw this witch doctor who had a lot of power, and he had this staff, and that was like a staff that he used in, you know, divination and witchcraft. And some people in America don't realize how much power these witch doctors have. They can put curses on people, and many pastors have actually died. They can walk through walls. They can do all kinds of crazy stuff because of the power of the dark side, and it's all very high level witchcraft and involving, blood covenants and stuff like that. So I saw this witch doctor and the black ravens that were demons that were assisting him. They could just like go in and out at his beck and call, these demon spirits, but they were real black, like crow type ravens. And then I saw the white lightning power of God come down from heaven and go through that staff and just like go through his body. And then it went back up from the ground up and out of him. And he was like transformed. He had no more dark power. It was like totally void and canceled. And like witch doctors were becoming radical lovers of Jesus and prophets and evangelists. And then I saw the eagles being released all over Africa instead of the ravens, instead of witchcraft and demons. I saw the eagles, and to me, that's the prophets. The prophets, and so it's like God is making America great again in Africa, having, there's been China and Russia and mercenaries and people vying for territory in Africa, and America during this former administration has been really behind in going and protecting Africa while other countries are moving fast. And they have been. But now I see a shift happening, and I'm really excited about that for what's to come. And he says he loves Africa. He loves them. And then I also saw that that there were some leaders and they were sleeping in their beds at night, and that they knew that they had been called to go into leadership in Africa. And so I know God is going to be awakening a call for leaders who love Jesus, and even those who don't know him, but will be used as a tool, who will carry the favor of God upon their lives to have like a resetting for Africa. And so, even though it does come at a great cost for these leaders and their families and their spouses, I saw them like in their beds being visited by God, and them saying, like, they had a choice to say yes to this call for them to be established as leaders in these different countries in Africa. So I'm really excited about that.